It's been a wild first week of NFL free agency where we've seen running backs get paid, wide receivers on the move to help young quarterbacks, and we've even seen Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell get traded before Justin Fields. So there is a ton of player movement, and the fantasy fallout is a ton that we need to sort through. And on today's episode of the Progression to the Mean podcast, we have 3 undervalued players to buy in Dynasty after the first week of NFL free agency. I'm your host, Shaun Moran, and I'm joined by my good friends, my co-hosts, and my fellow knowers of ball, Keegan Thompson and Aidan Holler. Usually I ask Keegan how he's doing, but we're going to start things off with Aidan. Aidan, how you doing today, man?
Leading the charge today. I like that. Shaun, I've been better. Ryan Poles is ruining my life. There's kind of no easy way around it. You mentioned Justin Fields. That situation is giving me a migraine. And after Diontae Swift was signed in like the first 30 seconds of free agency, Ryan Poles has seemingly just taken a nap with like glaring holes all across the roster. So it's been a crazy week. It's been fun to watch. The running backs in particular, I don't think we've ever seen an offseason like this where the carousel is this active, especially with guys young, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Diontae Swift, guys 25, 26 years old. So it's been a wild week for sure. Excited to get into some of our buys and sells here as Dynasty never sleeps, and neither do we.
It sounds like you haven't slept, Aidan. You sound pretty tired. Is Ryan Poles really keeping you up at night? It seems like you're in a blender over this Justin Fields.
He's ruining my life. He is single-handedly ruining my life right now. This week was supposed to be different for me.
Well, it could have been better.
It's not good.
Your star quarterback could have been on a CNN article about how he bragged that Sandy Hook didn't happen. Keegan, how you doing today, man?
Dude, it wouldn't be the offseason without tons of Jets storylines. Aaron Rodgers is going to be the vice president. And honestly, I've seen a lot of funny memes. I think the best thing I've seen, though, is we might start calling the offensive line the Secret Service. I like that. That's pretty cool. I'm into it. I'm curious. Can he get tackled if he's running? Will he have security around him? There's a lot of stipulations to him running for. Will he have to miss a game for a debate or a practice for interview? I'm not sure, but we're full-blown Jets off season right now. Sleepy Joe Douglas is completely missing out on signing people, but he comes out of nowhere and has a great trade to bring in Morgan Moses back. Joe Douglas is so good at trades. I just need to not expect him to go spend money in free agency, which is fine, but I think there's been some pieces he's missed out on, but that's neither here nor there. Other than that, I'm good. A lot of good movement for the fantasy landscape with free agency, players moving left and right. Everybody in the NFL hates the running back class, so everybody's signing running backs, good deals. Cap is going up, so running backs are making some money again. Things are buzzing in the NFL right now.
Yeah, a lot has happened since the NFL opened the legal tampering window on Monday.
I love that.
Yeah,
legal tampering window.
Legal tampering window.
They're not talking before, but DeAndre Swift gets signed promptly at 12.
Yeah, they just made that up in 30 seconds. The whole parameters of that deal, they had it ready to go in 30 seconds. And
it's impressive.
It's really you're saying Poles is a bad man, but he's a mathematician with how fast he's getting.
He's an awful man, really awful man.
And some of the biggest names in fantasy have new homes. So on today's episode, we have part 1 of our free agency buys and sells. On today's episode, we're going to be focusing on 3 players that we are buying after the first week of free agency. Last week, we talked about combine buys and sells. If you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, you know what to do. It is in our feed. Before we dive in, 2 things. First, if you are part of the 70% of people that watch this channel and aren't yet subscribed, you know what to do. Like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notifications to make sure that you don't miss any of the off-season content that we have coming weekly on this channel. Second, if you have made any Dynasty trades in the past couple of weeks, or you have bought or sold any of the players that we talk about on today's episode, please drop the trades in the comments. We live to see what you guys are doing. Aidan, Keegan, very active in responding to these trades, so please keep them coming. All right, Aidan, we're going to kick things off with you, my man. Who are you buying after the first week of NFL free agency?
Let's do it. Let's dive in. This is a guy that I talked up quite a bit last year. I think with some of the dust that has settled this week, some of the movement that has happened, I like him even more. I think he's in an absolutely awesome situation heading into 2024, and that is none other than Christian Kirk, the wide receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Absolutely love what his potential outlook is in Dynasty, both this year and going forward. Still just 27 years old at the start of this upcoming season, going into his 7th year in the NFL, his 3rd in Jacksonville. was banged up at the end of last year. But if you take away that 12th game where he was banged up and just count his 11 games, he was averaging 13.3 fantasy points per game, which would have paced him for wide receiver 21 roughly on the year. If you've been following the Jaguars offseason thus far, you know they picked up Gabe Davis. I really don't see this as a threat whatsoever to Christian Kirk. They play entirely different games. If anything, this just helps him. Gabe Davis is pretty much just to take the top off the defense type of receiver, to where Christian Kirk is, going to be at all three levels of the field. He's running short routes, he's running screens, stuff in the middle of the field or on the sidelines. Christian Kirk is a far more complete receiver than Gabe Davis. So I'm really not seeing this as any sort of a dip for him, and more so seeing it as a plus. I think he returns more to that 2022 level of play this year than what we saw last year. Currently priced right now, he's the wide receiver 39 on Keep Trade Cut, around guys like Christian Watson, Calvin Ridley, actually, and Terry McLaurin. I'm taking Christian Kirk over all three of those guys without even thinking about it. The cost to acquire him at this point in time is roughly an early 2024 second. So just to put that into perspective, you're looking at a guy like Lad McConkey, maybe A.D. Mitchell, Keon Coleman, or you're looking at Christian Kirk. I think this Jaguars offense as a whole is due for some positive regression this NFL season. So I'm really excited about Christian Kirk. I think he's still got a couple good years in him. He's still a couple years south of 30, and I'm really excited. So yeah, give me Christian Kirk. I'm selling an early 2024 second pretty easily. There it is. I did it today. I stand on 10
stood on
toes
business
so hard
on this trade.
This was business for the people.
Why don't you click on that, Keegan? That is a Russell Wilson, Christian Kirk for Justin Fields, and the end of the third round, the 312. Wow, you love to see that. You love to see that. All right, so Christian Kirk crushed it without Calvin Ridley. Year two in that offense wasn't as good. Very weird offense. I think that's fair. Positive regression. I think that offense will be better. Doug Peterson's supposed to be calling plays again. I believe. I know Press Taylor isn't. Keegan, if Christian Kirk is a buy, does that make Evan Ingram a priority for you as well?
I think I really like the Christian Kirk buy right now, especially with only Gabe Davis coming in and Calvin Ridley going out. I would like to wait on seeing if they do add another pass catcher to the offense. And the difference for me between like buying Christian Kirk and buying Evan Ingram is like maybe a good bargain buy to beef up your tight end room, but his points are totally valued in PPR formats, right? But he has a really low ADOT, lack of red zone role, but he gets an insane amount of targets. He'll probably pump him for 100 targets again. He'll get a lot of receptions, but I don't know if I'm going to go out and buy Evan Ingram unless it was kind of a bargain. I think the buy here is Christian Kirk, because Ingram's target share was great. It was 23.1% target share last year. But like I said, it's all more relative to kind of just PPR. If you're in tight end premium, I think it's a really good buy. But Kirk also out-targeted Ridley last year, 85 to 76 before he got hurt in week 13. So if nobody else enters the room, I would entertain buying Evan Ingram in maybe a cheaper fashion. But I like the Kirk buy as it stands right now, for maybe the lone buy out of Jacksonville.
Reports come out earlier today that the Jaguars are linked to Brandon Ayuk. So it sounds like the Jaguars and Brandon Ayuk's team are trying to work something out. I don't know. The 49ers let Eric Armstead go. I'm still of the belief that Brandon Ayuk will stay with the 49ers, but if they offer the 17th overall pick, I think the Niners are going to think real long and hard about taking that pick. It's similar to what they traded DeForest Buckner for in 2021. So, boys, Brandon Ayuk, if he's a Jaguar, are we still buying Christian Kirk? Do we think he's still a buy, or is this maybe a hold?
It's probably a hold. I'm going to need you to reverse that trade also if that happens. just for the sake of my sanity. That would be just egg on both sides of my freaking head, dude. Yeah, it'd be a disaster, but it'd be pretty cool for the Jaguars. But it'd be hard to constitute giving up a, early second with Brandon Ayuk. Like, Brandon Ayuk would be the wide receiver one. Like, there is no debate in that.
I think
once he gets
you
that
make
offense.
the case that he would still be a buy even with Ayuk. Like, you're still buying Christian Kirk for pretty cheap. Like, you don't know what Lad is going to be. You don't know what Keon will be, like some of those receivers in that range. You know what Christian Kirk will be. Him and Trevor Lawrence have a good relationship. He's got a good contract with the Jaguars. So I think you still have a couple years of some Christian Kirk viability. And if Ayuk comes, obviously his role will be decreased, but he was so good, even if him and Calvin were on the field. So I wouldn't say it's the worst thing in the world, but yes, it would maybe be bad time to buy Kirk if Ayuk does go.
Yeah. Like
That
it's a
would be
clear buy right now. It's
Yeah.
I'd probably still do it, but maybe lean hold, maybe just see what his value adjusts to.
Probably be a good time to reverse the Trevor Lawrence sell if Brandon Ayuk becomes a Jaguar.
That's I think what we should be talking about.
We'll delete the video. We'll delete the video.
We'll delete it. The thumbnail doesn't exist. Okay.
Fugazi.
If you or any of your league mates took advantage of Calvin Ridley going to the Tennessee Titans, opening up a big hole in this Jaguars offense, please drop any trades that you've had based off the Calvin Ridley signing here in the comments below. We want to know how you took advantage of that signing. All right, Keegan, moving on to our next buy here. Who are you buying after the first week of NFL free agency?
This is a bit against my normal agenda in fantasy, but today's buy is presenting me with a unique option. A rare workhorse running back has emerged in the NFL after the first week of free agency. This running back has rushed for more than 800 yards in every year of his career. He's only 2 years removed from a RB3 finish with 1,600 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns, 400 yards receiving on 53 receptions. He's been an RB1 in PPR 3 out of his 5 seasons in the NFL. He also had 5 RB1 finishes in 2023, and the man behind the mask is none other than Mr. Josh Jacobs himself. Today,
Today
we're buying.
Wow, and I'm celebrating because in our league we all play in, I traded a 2024 first for Josh Jacobs in the stretch run last year, and he got hurt. A real egg on our face moment, and we are so back. We are so back, Keegan. Thank you for buying Josh Jacobs.
Yes. And I'll talk about that pick a little bit too, but I'll go into the details. So he signs a 4-year, $48 million deal with Green Bay. It's more like a 2-year deal, like with the way NFL contracts are, but nonetheless, he's going to get signed to Green Bay. And shortly after the signing, Aaron Jones gets released. At the time I wrote this, AJ Dillon was also a free agent, and now he's got signed, but I'll talk a little bit about how that affects it. But with the money he signed for and getting rid of Aaron Jones, I'm like all in on Josh Jacobs being a massive workhorse running back in Green Bay this year. He's only 26 years old right now, and he'll still be 26 when the season ends. His value is screaming up right now and keep trade cut. He's currently RB11. He's up about 9 spots over a time period here. Here's some players ranked above him, so you kind of get a value of like where he's at. So like top 5 players above him are Jared Goff, Kenneth Walker, 2025 mid-first, a 2026 early first, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Here's some players right below him. A 2024 late first is about the same value as Josh Jacobs, so the trade still looks good, Shaun. George Pickens, James Cook, Jaden Reed, Rashad White, Deebo Samuel. I honestly love the idea of trading for Josh Jacobs right now, especially with a late 2024 first, as you did, Shaun. If you're trading for somebody like Josh Jacobs, you're probably a contending team ready to compete for a championship, hence the late 2024 first pick that you likely own if you have it traded away. He'd immediately make your roster immensely better, solidify the RB room. And if you trade away a late first, you're getting an RB who has potential to finish top 10, potentially top 5 at the position this year. Massive money signing, significant role with the Packers, probably can have 300 touches if they want him to. He's only missed 10 games since 2019, and he's played in at least 13 games every year of his career thus far. Massive, massive opportunity to add a running back who has top 5 finish potential, could be RB1 if the season goes well. Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really good running back that, like I said, rarefied air that you get a true workhorse opportunity in today's NFL. So I'm all in on buying Josh Jacobs, and I would sell a running back that's right near him. 2 of them are close to him, are Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker. And if I was in a championship spot, I would even potentially move off of them and go into Josh Jacobs. I like the 2021 move, like a late one to sell that. Moving off somebody like James Cook, Rashad White with something else to upgrade to Josh Jacobs are all great moves, I think, in my mind right now.
One stat that I love with Josh Jacobs, and this is from Scott Spratt over at FTN Fantasy. Josh Jacobs' percent of carries with light boxes and yards per attempt per at FTN Fantasy. In 2022, 45% of light box, averaging 5 yards per carry on light boxes. In 2023, 24%, 3.5 yards. So this man was seeing 8 men in the box at a huge rate comparatively against 2022 because of how bad his quarterback play was. And I think with Jordan Love and this offensive line and these receivers, I think Josh Jacobs can eat. My only question to Aidan, resident Packers lover, my only question to Aidan here, Josh Jacobs essentially signs like a 1-year deal worth like $14 million. The rest are all like team options. They can keep picking it up. Aidan, do you think paying up at Josh Jacobs' kind of height of value based off fit is worth it, considering that he's on a 1-year deal, and if he plays super well, they'll probably keep picking it up? But do you think it's worth the risk considering the contract?
I think there's a lot to unpack here.
Packers lover Aidan Haller is about to answer this question. All right, Aidan, the floor is yours.
So my philosophy personally, I'm not paying big for running backs. Just the way that I typically build my dynasty rosters, I'd rather really build around wide receivers and quarterbacks. I think all the points that Keegan's made make a ton of sense. I think, it's great offense he's going into. Still relatively young. There's a path to 300 is a bit rich. I think like 250 touches is like a lock. They are bringing back AJ Dillon, who isn't good but is going to get touches. That's just what his role is in that offense. So AJ Dillon is still around with his hat on, unfortunately. So this is a hard one for me. I'm probably not making the trade, but I can see all the points why you would. Depending on what your running back room looks like and the assets you had, I think Josh Jacobs has proven, like you said, 3 of the last 4 years he's been a running back 1 year removed from being the running back 3 in Oakland. And yeah, last year was just the team wasn't very good. So yeah, it was just stack boxes left and right. I prefer to build my roster around more like running back 2s. Like I'd rather pay something cheaper for a guy like Swift or like David Montgomery, and then go like elite wide receivers. But again, I think it comes down to like team building philosophy. If you want like an absolute stud running back, go get Josh Jacobs, especially if you're right on the cusp of potentially winning a league championship. So I could go either way with this. I'm just really not a big proponent of paying big for running backs, and that's kind of just my view of it. So
I went back to, and I had to double check, because as soon as I knew AJ Dillon was re-signing, I'm like, okay, well, like what was it like with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones on the field together? At the end of the year, when Aaron Jones was definitely healthy and there was a 4-week span at the end of the year, 15 through 18 weeks. AJ Dillon played in 2 of those games. He was injured for 2 of them, but he only had 7 rush attempts a game, and he only had 40 yards in between the 2 games. And basically, when Aaron Jones played more than 50% of snaps, AJ Dillon never eclipsed 10 rush attempts in a game, like for them last year in the games that they played together. I am surprised they brought AJ Dillon back. He was extremely inefficient last year. Yards per carry were bad. So to me, everything points to we're going to feed Josh Jacobs the ball. And yes, 300 would be ambitious, but I'm just saying he is a player who can handle that. And I feel like the Packers are going to lean on him heavily. And his receiving game has gotten better every year as well, too. So this is definitely a win now, buy move to solidify a roster that could maybe play for a championship.
I'm kind of more bullish on AJ Dillon being the backup, because we know exactly what he looks like in that role. And it can be middling, but he'll get some goal line work here or there. I honestly, it's like a known commodity behind Josh Jacobs. It almost makes me feel a little bit better. It's not like they drafted like a running back we like in the draft, and it's like, oh, geez, they're like already gearing up for the future of running back. It's like Josh Jacobs is clearly going to be the starter. AJ Dillon's going to be the backup. We have some familiarity there. Like I kind of took a breath of like sigh of relief after they signed Dillon. I was like, okay, I know what I'm getting here. Josh Jacobs is way better.
That's a good point
than AJ Dillon. Yeah. If you or any of your league mates sold Josh Jacobs or even bought him, drop your trades in the comments below. I traded for Josh Jacobs the end of last year ended up being the 110. So the 10th pick in the first round of this draft. Felt queasy about it. I feel a lot better now at this point in the offseason. Moving on here to our last buy. This is my guy that I'm buying. And this is very on brand. I have been a truther and card carrying member of the Diontae Johnson fan club for a long time. I was burned so hard by Diontae Johnson when he kept dropping the ball in the fantasy playoffs and he got benched. I have lived through benchings. I've lived through wide receiver 8 finishes. I've lived through wide receiver 40 finishes. I have been 10 toes down on Diontae Johnson. And right now, at this moment, on Keep Trade Cut, Diontae Johnson is the wide receiver 42 behind Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, Xavier Worthy, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, and Christian Watson. So some names that should be in front of him, some names that probably shouldn't be in front of him. Diontae Johnson is 27 years old. Diontae Johnson has cleared 140 targets in 3 out of 5 NFL seasons. He has a top 10 wide receiver finish on his resume, and he's also finished top 12 in ESPN's open score metric for 4 consecutive seasons, including a 2022 season where he ranked as the best separator in the entire NFL by that metric. Diontae Johnson is always open. He'll be the focal point of recovering sex addict Dave Canales' passing offense. Can we just take a pause here from the Diontae Johnson? I was today years old when I found out that Dave Canales, the OC and head coach of the Carolina Panthers, co-authored a faith-based marriage guide with his wife in which he details years of alcohol, sex addiction, narcissism, and infidelity in the book. That's insane.
That's awesome.
That's his punishment.
That's awesome.
He got caught cheating. He got caught with all the porn he was watching, and his wife was like, we have to co-author this book together. You have to air everything out, and you're good, right? That has to be it. There's no other way.
Tie a cinder block to my ankle and drop me off in the Pacific Ocean before I would ever go through that.
I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. Yeah.
But I'll
either
cut
way,
my losses and you can drown me.
Either way, Dave Canales, happy you're recovering, sir. He's going to be the focal point of Dave Canales' passing offense, and this is the same offense that Mike Evans just set career highs in with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback, right? So regardless of
this is his new addiction.
Yeah, his new addiction is turning around bad
Yes.
quarterbacks into good quarterbacks like Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, and now what do we know? We got the man who stands at 5'9", Bryce Young. And regardless of what you think about Bryce Young, who was terrible, I'm a backer.
Stands is generous.
It runs for his dear life at 5'9" was what it was last year.
There it is.
Regardless of how bad he was in year one, and it was bad. It was so bad. He will be better in year two. They just spent way too much money improving their offensive line, but I think that's bullish for at least this year. They could be a decently scrappy 4-13 team, 5-12 team. I don't know, but their offensive line's going to be better. The scheme's going to be better, and Diontae Johnson's going to be the focal point. I would not be shocked if this guy clears 150 targets. Now, how many are going to be catchable is a that's for another day. That's another day. But the scheme is good. The player is good. The volume will be prolific. And he should be higher. I'm sorry. A guy who's going to walk into 150 targets should be higher, who's 27 years old. They just traded for him. On Keep Trade Cut, here are some guys that have the equal value, right? And Keep Trade Cut is what it is, but it's helpful for trade calculators. You could trade the 204 right now for Diontae Johnson. You could trade Will Levis right now for Diontae Johnson. You could trade Chris Godwin straight up. You could trade up Derrick Henry straight up. So those are some fun, different trades you can make for DJ. I think this is a no-brainer. Go get Diontae Johnson. I'm going to pass this off to Aidan here. Big time believer in the Panthers offense. How do you think, how high do you think DJ finishes, Aidan, with your huge belief in the Panthers?
This is tough. So
that was sarcasm, by the way, for the mean team. This man has been in our group chat. Aidan's just been like, this offense is going to be the worst in the NFL. So let's hear it.
I think that it changes a bit. I was staring down 0-17 potentially before the DJ addition. I don't think this moves the needle too far. The biggest thing here is we're banking on Canales, pretty much fixing Bryce Young, which this really comes down to. Funny enough, this comes down to your faith, just like Mr. Canales in his book. This comes down to faith.
Done. Well done.
Yeah, this is. Do you have faith? And I can't tell you the answer to this because personally, I don't have a ton of faith in Bryce Young. Last year was historically one of the worst seasons ever from a first-round quarterback. Granted,
terrible.
The surroundings were awful.
Jared Goff level of rookie.
And it's not Jover. We're out of 5 or 6. We're on our way.
Yeah.
But to your point, he's going to get a ton of targets. It's him, the ghost of Adam Thielen, and Mingo, who can't even tie his shoes. It feels like in that locker room. So it's it's very clear who the focal point of that offense is going to be. A couple things to note. He will be on the last year of his contract, so it's worth kind of keeping an eye on. Are they going to try to extend him right away? Is this a guy? I would assume you probably try to get a deal done with this guy. I don't know. They got a pretty good end of that deal, so it's not like they gave up a ton. They swapped a corner and a 6 and 7 pick swap. It was pretty much Diontae Jackson, I think is his name off the top of my head, for Diontae.
Which also
not all that good. So it's
it was a really cheap trade. I can't believe that's all it took to get Diontae Johnson.
For as bad as it's been for them.
Terrible teammate. He must be a terrible teammate. I mean but him not diving after the ball for fumbles. He's an all-time bad vibes guy. But he's perfect in this scheme because he's going to get so many targets. I think he's going to love it.
I'm pretty interested though. I mentioned Christian Kirk, who is 4 spots ahead of him in terms of wide receivers in Keep Trade Cut. I would prefer Kirk personally. I like the established quarterback. I like the offense. If I can't though, I'm probably giving more of a mid-second for him. If you're sitting, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, and because I think that that 110 to 2-3, 2-4 is going to be that group of wide receivers that we have no idea how to really put together. But if you're sitting at 2-6 or something, I'm a little more comfortable with that. I don't know. This again, it comes down to how bullish are you on Bryce Young and Dave Canales? And I'm somewhere in the middle.
Is Bryce Young a buy right now?
I kind of think so.
Most signs would say yes.
I think so because his value is so low. It's so low, and I think you could be a mid-tier to high-end QB2 in some situations and some range of outcomes for Bryce Young based off of what Baker Mayfield did. But remember, Baker Mayfield was a really good rookie. He was a good rookie quarterback.
He was.
I mean, he just was. So we talked about this on our last episode. What the situation Bryce Young in was almost unrivaled with how toxic and terrible it is to put a rookie in. So it's you want to give him a mulligan, but your eyes can't unsee what you saw. And it looked like a guy who looked physically compromised on an NFL field as a rookie, which is you don't really want to see. But I think the offensive line will be better. I think the play calling is a major upgrade, and I think Diontae Johnson is just a winner. So getting someone who can separate is huge for this offense.
Bryce Young's currently quarterback 20 on Keep Trade Cut. He's right below. So the 3 quarterbacks above him in order are Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Tua. And the 3 quarterbacks below him are Justin Fields, the idea of JJ McCarthy and Baker Mayfield. So he's in a very weird group of quarterbacks. Like there's some steady fantasy producers in there, like Jared Goff, Kirk, Tua. There's some question marks like Justin, Baker, Deshaun's right below him, and then a rookie, JJ McCarthy. So he's very cheap right now.
How I would approach Bryce Young is like if you have an older running back that you're trying to get off of, or an older player, maybe you pick up like a late first, early second, and then you get Bryce Young back in the deal. Like maybe that's how you acquire him. I don't think I'd trade any quarterback straight up for Bryce Young right now. But if I were trying to get off of like an aging asset, I think he'd be nice, like recoup value type play to bolster your
The
quarterback.
guy who has Bryce Young and he's not starting him should go trade Bryce Young to the Josh Jacobs team and grab Josh Jacobs from the Bryce Young roster. It's about equal value on Keep Trade Cut. You could do that.
Good.
You could. One could. Well,
I'll tell you no, I would.
If anyone in your dynasty league is traded for Diontae Johnson or is traded Bryce Young or traded for Bryce Young, drop the comments in below. But that's it. Those are our 3 players that we're buying after the first week of free agency. We're going to be back next week after another set of free agency news comes in, the dust settles, and we'll probably go through 3 more players to buy. Our next episode is going to be 3 players that we are selling those. So stay tuned for that in our feed. That is going to be dropping tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Before we drop here, Keegan, Aidan, you got anything to say to the mean team at home?
Yeah, someone go rake up Ryan Poles.
Rake up? What?
Rake up? Yes. Wake up.
What is rake?
I can't even talk right anymore. He has been such a blender this week. It's Ryan Poles is controlling my emotions like a freaking puppet, dude. Like a freaking puppet right now. Yeah, go ahead and wake him up if anyone's got eyes on him.
Yeah, I just wanted on record that I do not believe that Aaron Rodgers said those things about Sandy Hook. If he did, I don't condemn that.
He apologized on Twitter.
He did apologize, and then somebody quickly turned it into a "Was this written by AI?" And somebody on Twitter was like, "Oh my god, it was written by AI."
I love it. Rodgers can't win. I just love that. It's awesome. It's awesome.
I will not be supporting his vice presidential campaign either. So I just want to make sure the mean team understands that I do not stand with Aaron Rodgers' shenanigans. I just want to see him play football for more than 4
Throw
seasons.
touchdowns to Garrett Wilson, and that's all Keegan wants.
All will be forgiven.
All right, everybody.
Not everything.
Thank you, bud. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you. Until next time.